over there, sitting here, so we were all messing with them, but I'm like, that's okay, I don't need. Very happy to be here.
You have something.
That'll throw a complete.
You have something in your house. I want it in the large, which is not business. You need to go in front of the phone.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I don't know if it's small arms or not, but yeah, they're running a lot of flags.
Yes. This is unique. If they, that's what I mean. We say, yes, it's divided through properties. And go on this, building properties.
I do. I never would have
What's
guessed.
his name?
I bet.
This is how you can build that. Wait a minute. I know you need me allowed you to do this. So how come now, I've spent all this money. These properties and all that, that's why. Cut and dry.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our meeting on June 17th. I'll call the meeting to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Mayor Patricelli.
Present.
Councilman Torricello. Present. Councilwoman Diamond.
Present.
If I ask everybody to stand, we'll say the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'll ask the clerk to read the minutes of the previous meeting, please.
Mayor, I will make a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes of the June 3rd meeting.
I'll second that.
A motion made second for call the roll.
Councilwoman Diamond.
In favor?
Councilman Torricello.
In favor.
Mayor Patricelli.
In favor. All right, reports of officers and committees.
Just to keep you updated, the pool is going in a forward momentum here. We got water in, we got chlorine going in. It's very clean. We're getting final appointments done in the pool house. Mike Gallo is our manager of the pool this year, doing a wonderful job. We're going to be doing a couple of final things to the building tomorrow, putting on some cameras, outdoor cameras and things like that, so we can have some good eyesight on it and manage it that way. And we're also looking at getting Wi-Fi there as well. But the pool's in very, very good condition and should target for the June 28th opening. Bulk is tomorrow. We have our garbage trucks and bulk bins down at the here.
I just said all, well, sorry to hear.
I can hear him.
Is that any better?
The mic is not working, but I could hear you.
Yeah, okay. So bulk is tomorrow. We have the bins down there and the garbage trucks ready. Our guys will be there at 5:45 in the morning, and that'll go until 2 p.m. So we're going to see what we do this year. I moved the DRI, which was supposed to be tonight, based on the public hearings and some other things we had for our discussion. I moved the DRI to the July 15th meeting. That will be a public meeting and a presentation, so we could move forward on the DRI. But that would be July 15th. We had a couple RFPs go out last week. One was for the stump removal. It went out, I think it was to about 20 vendors, and we should see some information coming back on that. We've got about 198, almost 200 stumps throughout the city. And the feasibility for the church went out to see if in fact we could logistically make that work as a courthouse. Lastly, Broadway paving was complete. Striping will begin middle of next week for its final phase, and the pricing for the intersection on 23rd Street, we're working through those numbers right now, so that'll all inclusive when the time comes. Thank you, Mr. White, for that.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No, I'm all set. Maybe when you get there, right?
I thought they went quickly. It looks good.
Yeah, they were way ahead of schedule. The weather didn't hold them up, and moving on at that point, so good.
Okay. We'll move on to, old business.
So let me jump in. Was there any more conversation about markings along the road in front of the arsenal? Painting that a different color or
Yes,
something like that? Has there been, I know we talked about it. Is there any comment?
well, we took it one step. Is that working? Is that better? Okay, I'm just gonna hold it like that. We took it one step further. We actually reached out, and received some grant money, for, that paint, or for that paint.
Okay.
That, identification markers. And, we're working through the process now, to receive that grant fund, it'll be about $75,000.
Great.
That should bring us all the way through and help us also paint other areas, along the bike path.
Yeah, in addition, the other areas where the bike part is separated.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah, great, good. Keep it posted.
Yes.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on. There's no old business.
There is no old business on this evening's agenda.
Okay. Then we'll go into new business.
Your Honor, the first order of new business this evening is a public hearing. It's regarding the City of Watervliet's community development needs and to discuss the possible submission of one or more community block grant applications for the 2021 program year.
All right, then I'll open up the public hearing. And Dave, you ready to run on that?
Yeah, Joe. Trying to get on everybody's right.
Hey, you just tell me when to hit the button.
So as we said, this is a public hearing regarding our 2021 CDBG programs through the consolidated funding application round. The purpose of this hearing is to provide information and receive questions from the public regarding the city's community development programs and to discuss submitting community development block grant applications for the 2021 program year. The Cdbg Grants programs are part of the consolidated funding application process through the governor's office. Potential grants included there are micro enterprise, public facility, infrastructure, planning, and New York Main Street grants. The CFA program is available once every year. It's competitive throughout communities throughout New York State. And it utilizes upwards of $750 million of state resources to focus on the following priorities: develop projects that address regional economic growth, implement strategies from the Regional Economic Development Council strategic plan, and applications are accepted on July 30th this year, and awards will be announced sometime in December of this year. This is a list of previous grants from 2016 through 2021. And as you can see, during that time frame, the city has received and pushed out over $12 million in grant funding, and 11 of that 12 million has been competitively awarded through the CFA program. The different areas that we can submit grants: the CDBG Public Facilities Grant, which is a maximum of $300,000, and that's for city-owned facilities such as the church. We've done grant funding through The senior center, when we did the roof of the senior center and the library, we could do the dome and just municipal facilities like that that serve the public. Civic center, yep, that serve the public. The infrastructure grants are a maximum of $1 million, and they're focused on drinking water, clean water, and public works projects, and they must benefit low and moderate income population. The planning grants are a max, and I believe that is incorrect. That planning grant is a max of $50,000, and it must be a community needs assessment grant regarding either an engineering study, a housing study grant, and it must benefit low and moderate income. Micro enterprise is a maximum grant of $200,000. The grant amount maximum for each individual business owner is up to $35,000. 50% of those grants must be for startup businesses within the city. And to qualify, you must have a business with 5 or fewer employees. For every $35,000, you must hire 1 full-time employee or 2 part-time equivalent, and it must benefit low to moderate income persons.
We have a micro enterprise grant now.
We currently do have a micro enterprise grant now through the 2020 funding round. The economic development grants are a minimum of $100,000, a maximum of $750,000. For every $15,000 that you receive in funding, you must hire 1 full-time or 2 part-time equivalent low to moderate income persons. This benefits businesses in the area, larger businesses in the area, manufacturing extension. Again, must result in the hiring of low to moderate income persons. This is a 50% loan and 50% grant. We can request this economic development grant anytime during the year. This is through the CFA, but we can request it any time of the year as well. The small business assistance grants are anywhere between $25,000 and $100,000. This benefits business expansion in the city. It must result in the hiring of low-income persons, and this is for every $25,000 in funding you receive, you have to hire 1 full-time or 2 part-time equivalent. This is 100% grant, and we can request these grants at any time during the year as well. The New York State Main Street programs will be for areas such as 3rd Avenue, 19th Street, what we consider Main Street. Minimum grant here is $50,000, and the maximum grant is $500,000. The maximum amount for each individual business is $50,000. This provides matching funds up to 75% for building renovations for mixed-use business buildings only, and $25,000 can be used for the rehab of the residential unit above the business. Main Street can also fund a downtown anchor project. It must be shovel-ready, and it's up to $500,000 grant, again with a 75-25 match. The grant projects applications are developed, created, and submitted to the Regional Economic Development Council and CFA state agencies for review by the city. All grants are competitive statewide. Successful applications are administered and managed by the planning department for the city of Watervliet. This program timetable is July 30th is the application deadline. Sometime in December, they will make the award. And then in January of 2022, if successful, the funding will be available. The City of Watervliet Outreach Program urges civic groups, stakeholders, businesses, and the public to identify economic development, infrastructure, and planning needs or other community development activity in our town. Proposals are developed into projects that are potential candidates for a CFA grant application. Public meetings, public hearing, and in-person visits are means used to obtain input for this program. Governor Andrew Cuomo signed Executive Order number 8, establishing a team to explore ways to expand participation of minority and women-owned businesses in state contracts. The city of Watervliet is committed to meeting both the governor's priorities and its obligations under Executive Law Article 15A, which promotes the meaningful participation of MWBEs in state contracting. The state has implemented standardized MWBE contracts in RFP language to address this problem. MWBE goals will be established on a contract-by-contract basis. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have a question?
I do not now.
Okay, all right. Cdbg eligible grant ideas possible for 2021 CFA grant cycle for the city are water infrastructure projects, public facility grants, planning grants, and a micro enterprise program, of which we already have one active right now, as I mentioned, for the 2020 program. Discussions about a possible CFA eligible grant projects that are not part of the CDBG program include park planning grants, WQIP grant for CSO separation of sanitary and storm sewers, local water pump revitalization program implementation grants, New York State ENCON Watervliet management at the reservoir and solar panel projects, and environmental protection funds grants. These projects are already planned and shovel-ready projects that are already planned and shovel-ready are scored highest during the application review process. And projects that were not identified in a feasibility study or not part of a study are generally not funded. Do you have any questions?
Any of those projects that we identified shovel-ready?
We have a public facilities grant. We received a second round of public facilities funding for the church to complete, and we'll show you why in the second public hearing. But I believe there's the potential for some of those projects, Joe, that we've identified for public facilities, possibly the dome. Help me out here.
So we looked at the dome, doing some work there, any improvements needed to, the pool, area. I know the civic center might now be in more need of, some replacement items. So there's a number of different ways to start to look at, a couple of different things. I think our concentration, is gonna be coming off of the bridge study, looking at those type of items that are, I think, a lot more attainable. Okay, we did receive 4.5 million with the combined, grant through Congressman Tonko.
Right.
So we'd like to expand on that component to make that project happen.
What was Tonko's money for?
Well, one of the things that
Federal money?
yeah, it was federal money that we actually went and partnered with. We did that combined grant. We were in the lead on that. When the time came for the ask for federal funds, Troy had a project already shoveled in the ground, working on that Federal Street area. So we put that in there and partnered with it. We got additional money. They got their money for that, but we also got $4.5 million for the bridge component, to do that. So I think we're going to try to expand the rest of the way and try to get funding for that as well.
And have we heard from any private businesses or any sort of organizations or anything like that? Have we heard from them that they're aware of this, and that they want to participate, or they are seeking our help?
We have not heard from anybody at this time.
Well, we actually reached out to a contractor who ended up buying, we talked about micro enterprise money. It was the old Dante building, the engineering building on Broadway. We then put it together with a brewery who's looking to expand. So we're hoping to have 2 applications through the micro enterprise program.
Correct.
For that. So that's hopefully a catalyst, at least to start.
Is that the Port Skyline Brewery
Yes.
or another one?
That is Port Skyline Brewery.
So you're working with them and
Yes. Well, because he's a Port Skyline Brewery.
Right, I've heard of it, but yeah.
North.
what's his name?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That belongs. Just Roselle, Ed Roselle. But he's looking at Spain.
Yeah.
We tried to get him interested in Papas. He was interested in Stewart's, 19th Street.
That'd be a perfect spot for him.
And I think the Dante building would be good for it too.
Which one's the Dante? Is that,
Right,
is that
right next to Pasino Peak.
just south of Pasino Peaks, right?
No,
No.
just north of Pasino.
North of it?
Unfortunately, the owner of that
Oh, I
property.
know what it is, yeah.
Yeah, they had 3 contracts over this past 6 months, all of which fell. And I reached out to the guy by the name of Adam Mulkey, who's been working for the location in the city, put him in touch with the property owner. They then had a cash sale, and now he's moving forward. So now we're putting it, the brewery with Adam, and hopefully we get that place tendered. So we get that quickly.
Nothing came of Stewart's, right? Stewart's is privately owned. The old Stewart's is privately owned,
Privately
correct?
owned by Advanced Glass, the owners of Advanced Glass. So. But now with this Main Street grant, did we do anything as a shovel-ready site, with the Price Chopper?
With Price Chopper. It is, Main Street is basically, we could, yes, if they had something that was in the hopper and ready to go, yes.
You mean on the street in front of Price Chopper?
Right, the 2 pad sites are essentially shovel-ready sites, you know, so they're shovel-ready sites, so potentially work with them. If something was to come.
That's a good piece of land.
It is.
And depending on
That's
what.
an attractive piece of land.
Right.
That shouldn't be, that's
Right,
important.
why is no one buying that? Why is no one
Yeah, why-
interested? Do we have any idea?
I don't know, sometimes it's always, you know, when you look at something like that, it's always how much does the dirt cost when developers look at it. And if someone's coming in, the cost is so much higher for these type of approvals now. So his dollar amount could go on from here now up to here, you know, when it comes time to do it. So, it all depends what they're asking, you know. I know we're going live here right now, but, you know, sometimes when they ask an exorbitant amount for a parcel, they can find it in a better location that has greater generation.
Right.
You know, we're limited,
Yep.
you know, as to what comes through this.
That's a lot of traffic on 19th Street though.
There's a lot of traffic, but unfortunately, there's not those secondary amenities that help the anchor store to get there. So you need to have that full complement of development. And, you know, you need to get the vibrancy, not, you know, with it. And when you have an asking price here, no vibrancy, then you don't have, you got people looking elsewhere. You know what I mean? So.
All these different kinds of grants, talking about like, you know, like I guess residences and rehabbing residences, things like that. Is it possible to reach out to some of the owners of some of those buildings, those residences on 19th Street and say, hey, you know, you wanna,
I think we've done.
put an application, we'll help you do it.
Yeah, they did that in the city of Hudson.
Yeah.
They did that, they went right down and they had that, remember they had that, let's say, that, fee that they were working with.
Yes.
They had to comply with that fee to get, you know, to get their grant, you know, their grants.
Yeah.
It wasn't just something that you, could do.
But I thought we did some, marketing and research with that, so reaching out to people if they're interested in this upcoming round.
We've done, yeah, we will do more. We have done some, but we will do more.
There's a couple addresses of, you know, particular interest to me that I'd like to talk to you about.
Okay.
One of the things we've not done though is to homeowners. But we can expand, absolutely, we can expand as to what we're looking for.
No, we also have, I was gonna bring it up later, but we can bring it up right now, is, we were approached by the river boat. I didn't know if that was a good, big catch. Yeah, well, I mean, that's certainly something, economic development, micro enterprise, we don't know if this is, that they have, but they were approached by the Hudson, tour company, that they run an operation out of Hudson, New York, and they wanted to come up here and anchor at the old, barge in our area. And then they would bring in 3 boats, that would be, you know, like, I would say dinner cruises, but they would be, you know, the cruises. And that would be right there. And next to that is that other supplement where we're looking at those, like, that restaurant, tonic bar,
Yes.
you know, set up there, which is also something that's being, talked about.
Right.
So
These are great ideas.
Yes, we get boats here like next week.
we're trying. I sent them an email today, asked them if we could pull it in.
It's just that, actually, if we can get the votes here, that they speed up a restaurant or something like that, you know, some kind of a food establishment.
Is there any comments or any other comments you have?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
May I speak?
Yes, go ahead.
My
Only
statement,
to address the board with the.
I'll do this, yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Paul.
my statement is, if I was a businessman, why would I want to locate Watervliet, New York?
That's right now, yeah, right now, Paul.
Pardon me?
I can tell you one thing, right now, real estate is a lot more affordable in Watervliet versus Troy versus Colony versus Cohoes. They're already established. Watervliet's been passed over for many years. So if I was a property owner, I'd be looking at entry point as to what I can use my property for. Maybe not ask that exorbitant money like some properties are already and try to get those people here. Because I think people are willing to locate here from a business perspective. But you just have to look at the value and, you may not get that return in the first couple of years, but it will be in the out years, you certainly will.
But you gotta give me an incentive to come here. Do we have low taxes? Do we have low water and sewer? These are big issues for a businessman to relocate somewhere.
I think all that is absolutely correct.
I think we have a lot to offer too, Paul. I do know if you're watching the real estate market, especially in homes, they're selling at record high numbers here. And I don't believe that every time I look at something and say, oh, we're moving out, or we gotta get out of here, or whatever like that, that's not the case. We've got a great city, and I think it's getting better. And I think we're now more business friendly than we've ever been before.
The market is
And I think
high.
one of the problems is getting the word out about how business friendly we are, and what advantages you can get from working, opening up a business and living in the city.
You're looking at very difficult times right now. I'd say for at least another year, because no one is gonna build right now the way things are. Lumber is out of sight. They claim to build a new house, it's $36,000 extra, the increase in products.
It's funny, and I just read something that lumber's gonna, within the next month or two, or lumber's gonna come back down.
That'd be great.
And
I don't
And
believe
it'll
it.
get back to where, pre-COVID prices in a few, in a month or a couple months. So fingers crossed that that's the case.
Well, we want to be ready.
Let's hope
Maybe.
and prepare.
Okay. Well, if there's no other comments, then I'll close the public hearing. And go to the next.
Your Honor, the next is a public hearing regarding the City of Watervliet's Public Facilities Grant number 1210 PF 6417. This was for work done at the Watervliet Community Center located at 1501 First Avenue, Watervliet, New York, 12189.
Okay. I'll open up the public hearing and then you want to brief us through it.
So this is a second public hearing on the city's public facilities grant from 2017. This was work done at the proposed community center or court right across the parking lot here. The purpose of this hearing is to hold the required second public hearing during the implementation of ongoing community development block grant projects pursuant to 24 CFR 570. And the goal is to provide information and program updates about these New York State Office of Community Renewal grant programs. This grant, again, is the Community Center Capital Repair Project, and the project that was a Community Development Block Grant. The project number, as I mentioned, was 1210 PF 64-17. The original project here was to repair the former vacant property located at 1501 First Avenue. This included building rehabilitation, building code repairs, and to make the building ADA compliant. As the project proceeded, it was determined that there was substantial structural problems and deficiencies, and the brick wall and exterior structure were near collapse of the bell tower. A comprehensive structural and safety assessment was done of the bell tower, and the deficiencies and dangerous condition of the support structures of the site. We asked the New York State Office of Community Renewal to come up and inspect the site with us, which they did. After that meeting, the city, the Office of Community Renewal, and the structural engineer, Russ Reeves, it was decided that it was necessary to repair the structural problems and dangerous conditions. New York State OCR determined along with the city that this project was to be designated as an imminent threat, and the grant money was then allowed to be used to remove the bell tower and repair the walls and the roof. The work plan was adjusted and emergency work proceeded. At this time, work was successfully completed. The bell tower was removed. It was replaced with a smaller tower. Structural repairs to the building have been completed, and the building is deemed stable and safe. The city also included a heating and cooling system installed in the building, and that was paid for as part of the grant project as well. A couple of pictures. This is the bell tower when it was up from a couple different angles, looking west and looking southwest. And from the ground looking at the east, that's looking northwest from the ground, looking at the damaged area there on the left-hand side. This, I'll have to get up here just to point this out. If you can see, this is the southeast corner or southwest corner. This right here, this hole was the genesis of the whole problem with the building, or with the tower, sorry. As you can see, kind of see here, there's some of the brick is kind of falling in on itself there. The mortar was kind of worn away. You can see a little bit more here. You can see some of the brick coming in on itself. Some of the brick is missing and falling down. Same with this photo here, just a little bit closer. This is from inside the tower looking southwest. This is what the corner of the building was, or the corner of that tower was like before any work was done. Again, looking southwest. So, as I said, that tower was taken down. The smaller tower was put in its place. The building was stabilized, and other repairs were completed. Any questions?
It's stable, it's functional now, at some level.
It's stable, yes.
There's heat.
There is heat in there. Part of the issue was believed that because of that hole in the roof, the water was going down in there, and in the wintertime it would freeze, then thaw, and freeze and thaw, and that caused the structural damage as well.
And in addition to that, we also have, we have that request for proposal out, right, Joe?
Yes.
For the court to at least look at the possibility of turning it into a courtroom, right?
Right, for feasibility, correct.
We also got, did we get $300,000
Yes.
to?
So when this happened, when we discussed it with the Office of Community Renewal, they advised us to complete the work under the imminent threat program and then to reapply, and they would strongly consider the application. We reapplied earlier this year. They had the 2020 funding round come through. We reapplied and we were approved for an additional $300,000.
So now the study that we're out for now for the RFP, look at the possibility of conversion, doesn't necessarily mean that the court will take it. But what we'll do is it will set the parameters for what would be acceptable what we may need to do, which we could use this money to get that ready. Naturally, like, bathrooms and opening it up and that kind of thing. So it's kind of like works, the timing is actually perfect, for getting it ready, because we would have to fund or pay for the improvements before the courts would even move in. And then if they did move in, then they would take the maintenance, but they wouldn't be doing the improvements. So this is kind of like getting it all together. This is all things that you were talking about, Mr. Yuan, before, about getting something worked on and getting brick and mortar.
Yes.
Instead of talking about it, this is where we are now and trying to get to that next step.
Well,
Just does the court system have input on, again, I don't know what comes first, I don't know the project, but at some point, they're gonna have some input, if they like the project. They're gonna have some input on where things go, how things go, or do we just build the courtroom and say, hey, you guys want it?
There is a whole set of guidelines, like how much room you need for this and what's needed for that, and so forth. And we actually, in the RFP, that's in the RFP, the link to the guidelines that are in the rules of the chief judge.
Okay.
I mean, it's lengthy, but I think some of these firms have dealt with
That's what I'm hoping, right, the
court system.
by the way,
Yes, renovation.
do you send that request out to specific firms that have,
Yeah, well, Barb did the legwork on that. She got 3 firms, from the state themselves.
Right.
Then I reached out to.
that have a history
Correct.
of performing this kind of work in the courthouse?
Yes, and then I reached out to 2 architects that I knew in the industry. One actually did 2 local studies. Unfortunately, those municipalities didn't get funding to do them, but very familiar with regulations and Barb mentioned.
Yes, so there's a whole set of guidelines and so forth. And I think, what is the RFP? What are the proposals to?
We went that, July 9th.
Farther, okay,
Yeah,
we're farther
yeah,
out,
we'll
yeah.
get more time. Yeah.
And then we'll kind of just see what those say, and then we'll reach out to OCA and say, okay.
We have these proposals and
Yes.
sort of run it by them, right?
They are our go-to, pretty much, what's next, so yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Why was the bell tower restored? There's no bell there.
It wasn't restored, the bell tower was removed, the lower roof is on. It's lower than it was before.
I think they just encapsulated the roof itself. They brought it down, they shut it off, and they created a new was it pitch? Right.
Sounded like, the way it was explained, it sounded like the tower was restored to its original condition.
No.
The tower was removed and it's a lot lower.
Yeah.
You see the 2 pictures side by side. You see the difference. Now, if you look at it now, if you don't remember it, it looks like normal, but that's not the way it was. Okay. If there are no other questions or comments, I'll close the public hearing. Public hearing closed. We'll move on to local law number 3.
Not here.
Oh, you must have the other one.
I have copied that, given to you by the clerk.
Should have the new one.
One that was on the website did have local law number 3.
That's the wrong one. I don't have local law number 3 at this point. But I do have it on the email that you sent.
Yeah.
I have it on the email that you sent earlier. My apologies. I'm sorry.
So local law number 3 is designed to allow the city to sell property, city-owned property, to abutting or adjacent landowners without having to go through the otherwise kind of rigorous process of selling city-owned property. So typically you have to basically put it in the paper, have an auction, and it goes to the highest bidder. There's certain properties that are more suitable to selling to an adjacent or abutting landowner. So what this law would do would be to amend the charter to allow the city to sell the property to adjacent landowner. All owners of property that share a common border with the property would be invited to submit a sealed written bid. Once those bids are received, it would be sold to the highest bidder, subject to common council approval. So it allows for neighbors to buy, especially like little tiny parcels,
Right.
old roads that have been discontinued, things like that. Certainly, the city would have to conclude that the property is not needed for a municipal purpose, because once it's sold, you're never gonna get it back. But it does, it allows for an easier process for those types of sales. And this is, the change is largely, based upon a similar rule in Cohoes that, and a lot of communities have this type of law as well. So, the process from this point forward would be as follows. We would have to schedule a public hearing, and if, Dave can get that in the paper as soon as possible, we'll be scheduled for the next meeting, which I think is July 15th. And at that point in time, you have a public hearing, you can pass the law that night, or at least take a vote on the law that night. This type of change to the charter is subject to a permissive referendum. So what that means for you is if at least 10% of the people in the city of Watervliet that voted in the last governor's election will sign a petition asking that this go to a vote in November, would be put on the ballot. You have 45 days to do that. If there is no such petition, I would expect there would be one. And the law would become final at the end of that 45-day period.
I'm just curious, have people asked to buy a bunch of properties they have? That's good.
Yeah, there's a few alleys, a few discontinued, a couple, like, one is in the Ale Beach, and Douglas Industrial, it's just
Oh,
like
yeah.
abandoned, but it's on city property. And there's been a couple others, I think we got about 4 or 5 back then.
Oh,
And this has been, I think people have been asking me about this for 2 years now. Yeah.
And this will just clean up the process.
Make it more simple, less time consuming, less costly. And you'll be able to sell the property to someone who are sure is gonna use it appropriately, as opposed to somebody who has no connection to the surrounding neighborhood.
That's just a seal bid. Is there like an upset price or something? Or
So-
somebody get it for a nickel?
So ultimately, council would have to approve the sale. So if it's not a reasonable amount, then you would not approve it.
It's,
I guess, do I have to make a motion?
I don't think so, I think there's a, is there a vote hearing or something?
So we don't have,
No,
there's
there's
we're
not.
just gonna schedule the public
Public
hearing, so
hearing.
we'll probably schedule that for the July meeting. If Dave could put the notice, and I can give you the language if you need it.
Okay.
Do you need me to read that in the record, or?
So I think as long as the minutes reflect that we had this, that it was, the local law was introduced, today, and that, a public hearing will be scheduled for that July meeting, I think that would be fine.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Question?
Go ahead.
When a city sells a parcel at auction, do they provide title insurance to the highest bidder? I know the county used to do that years ago when I was active in buying. I don't know whether that still prevails or not.
So so that's typically the responsibility of the purchaser of the property, so they would, certainly, if a smart person would get a title report done and buy title insurance.
The reason why I mentioned that is, but in the past, years back, the county would provide title insurance for the property, but I guess that's changed.
Yeah, so the city at this point, I think I would recommend to the city that any deed be a quick claim deed, not guaranteeing ownership in any way, shape, or form. So any buyer would certainly want to at least have done a title search.
Good question. Okay. Move on to the next resolution.
Resolution number 9826 is a resolution approving an agreement between the City of Watervliet and Weston and Sampson, PELS LA PC, regarding project number 7406-01-00. This is combined sewer outflow elimination.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we move on resolution 9826.
I will second that.
Joe? Okay, so I gave you a couple of printouts today, which shows kind of an overview of what the combined sewer outlets or outflows are. There are 5 within the city of Watervliet. We are under mandate to separate the combined sewer system, which has the water and the dirty water coming from the homes as well. We got this contract and this funding approved that was about $5 million back in 2018. There was a bond resolution. We're now moving forward towards design, which is that's what this contract is doing. It's a contract with Weston and Sampson for lump sum design. It will be bidding administration. It will be construction administration. 2 years of construction inspection and estimated expenses within that. This particular one for the CSO is $703,500. That's what this contract is for, that you will hopefully approve this evening. And again, it is for the 5 combined sewer outflows within the city of Watervliet.
$700,000 for the 5, all 5?
To design and manage the project over the next 2 years. This next page, if you're looking at that, that's going to be for the next contract, so don't have that much.
Okay.
So,
Joe, when it comes out to that number, what is the percentage of engineering fees versus the project itself? The estimated cost of the project?
Well, we're estimating that right now, again, based on these dollars, we're estimating, we did a bond for $5 million. Right, Amanda, we did a bond for $5 million. We're estimating that's going to be up a little higher, maybe somewhere just in the area of about 5.9, you know, 5.9 million now, just based on cost. So that percentile would be 12, 13%. But there's also contingencies in there. There's also contingencies in here too, which we know won't be paid in that sense. So for example, there's a little bit, not the construction administration, but it's more of the inspection. We put in 1,100 hours over the 2-year period. And of course, we'll be monitoring those as we go along, through the project.
Right.
There could potentially be savings within there.
I mean, usually with a number of that magnitude, percentages for A&E costs are usually 7-8%.
Yeah. I would think this is within reason. We actually worked with the FC, the Environmental Facilities Corporation, on this. When we went through. But we know there's, like I say, we know that there are contingencies in here that probably will come back. Let me just read this here real quickly. Yeah, so they're estimating what we're adding in here are the MWE for the entire amount, which they have to bump up to get 23%. The MWE firm, which is 34%. So some of the fees that we have to pay on this contract are a little bit higher than they typically.
What's on the contract, not on the design?
Well, this is all part of it because we're going to also have the MWE components during the course of construction and everything else that we'll be monitoring too. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
The 5.9 million inclusive of that 703? Or is that in addition to?
I think it is for God, yes.
Inclusive?
Inclusive.
There are other questions?
No.
Okay. Call the roll.
Councilwoman Dunn,
Favor?
Councilman Torrance-Sell,
In favor.
Mayor Patricell.
In favor.
Resolution number 9827 is a resolution approving an agreement between the City of Watervliet and Weston and Sampson, PELS LAPC, regarding project number 18535, water filtration plant, structural infrastructure, and process improvements.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we move on resolution number 9827.
I'll second that.
So now you can look at this page. This is a 5-year plan that the city had proposed back in 2019. This project here was a $6.5 million project, which now, based on the funding design that you see here, that's been updated to actually take this out to a 2024 project year. And we're estimating that's going up a little bit to be about 6.9 on this one. This is all for the filtration plant. It's in dire repair of a number of items, as you can see. If you want to go right down the list just from year one, we're actually looking at filter basin number 8, which is not at failure, but has a lot of interior problems with it. This is going to be the first filter that we're going to actually work out in the first year within the 2021 year. If the technology and the design that we're using works on this repair, the remaining filters will get that same design to go forward. But you can see based on this, there's some life safety issues that have to be done. There should have been homeland security around our facility up there, which hasn't been for many, many years. Some simple emergency eye washing, emergency signage. And then if you go down to project year number 5, what says an emergency generator has made its way up to now year 1 because that has failed a couple of times during our monthly tests. So we're in the process of actually getting bids on that, and also our SCADA system, which is our reporting mechanism to see that all our different filter and tanks are working properly. So to manage that project through fruition, which again is going to be out to 2024, this project that you saw here on page 13, this contract with Weston and Sampson will be for $785,500. Again, it will be design, bid administration, construction administration, 2 years of inspection, and that estimates that project will be as well $785,500 for that project as well.
Also, this is that up to the filtration plant, that building is a disgrace.
It's a tough shape, that wall,
It's in rough shape, it's right.
Yeah, there's exterior.
It's functioning
west
now,
wall
but
is.
it's functioning properly, but
all the way
I don't know for how long.
I don't know if you've been up there on a tour lately, but there's, and I know Amanda was just up there, I think there's a lot of water on the floor. A lot of these pipes are leaking, a lot of, there's issues with walls. Again, the filtration, the sweeping mechanisms, a lot of work that needs to be done.
Anybody out there wants a tour, just let me know. You'll shake your head.
Mayor, I was up there myself, this a couple of years ago, I think you asked me up there.
Oh, right.
A lot of that stuff is facade. I mean, we see the bulges in the wall, and that can be repaired, not a big deal. I mean, it certainly has to be addressed, but it's not the end of the world, you know.
Well, I think the intent is, Mr. Euclid, is to take it back to its original luster, if you will. We're looking at windows that are going to be in the historic design that it is, although, you know, maybe aluminum clad or something like that. But putting the brick back and not doing the corrugated tin that was done many, many years ago. This project here puts a little pride back into the building as it was left over the years, which I think we should be doing, and making it look like something
I agree.
that once was. We're not gonna, you know, section off the windows and put that corrugated metal over half of the windows. We're gonna do it right.
Very good.
It's a nice building. I mean, You know, it looks like it's a nice building, it will be nice again once it's, you know, fixed up.
Exactly, take pride in it, do it the right way. If no other questions, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilwoman Diamond,
Favor?
Councilman Torricella,
In favor.
Mayor Patricelli.
In favor.
Your Honor, that concludes the new business for this evening's agenda.
We have something under appropriations to the county.
We sure do. At your request, the last meeting, I made sure that I had 2020 numbers as well as 2021 numbers. No full presentation, I'm just gonna give, 50,000 feet view. For 2020, I discussed most of the line item detail in the last meeting, so I'm just gonna hit really big items and some stuff that wasn't hit last time because it was shortfalls in revenues and I don't need to make budget adjustments for those. So again, big items, sales tax down $170,000, port fees down $80,000. State aid down $242,000. If you combine just those three items, that's 10% of our budget. Huge. We did have some big revenue wins. For miscellaneous income, we had $71,000 in permits that we didn't budget for from National Grid in 2020. We had some reimbursements from the FBI and DEA to the tune of $40,000 for work members of the WPD did for those organizations. We had a large transfer from the water fund and the fire department grant that we talked about quite often. In 2020, we received $110,000 of that money. Onto big ticket expenses. Again, we discussed these last week, but just getting real high level. Fire OT, we again received that grant for the firemen. There are 3 firemen going to paramedic school, and there's also another person who is out on leave. So that resulted in fire overtime being over budget by $160,000. We had some allocation changes to retirement obligations for city employees to the tune of $61,000. We had Medicare reimbursements that the city had anticipated of $117,000 and transfers to the workers' comp reserve per recommendations from the financial restructuring board FRB of $252,000. Moving on to the water fund, revenues were pretty steady. We had a decrease in costs of retirement, health insurance due to allocation adjustments for 2020, and we had decrease to various equipment and security lines at the filter plant and the hydro. We put some security cameras in that were very badly needed in both those locations, as well as buying a few new pumps. We also moved some funds to the general fund and the workers' comp reserve, again, for recommendation from the FRB. Moving on to the sewer fund, our revenues and expenditures for the sewer fund were pretty routine. We made a few adjustments for the retirement allocation as well as money to the workers' comp reserve for, again, FRB recommendation. With all that being said, I'm happy to report that we have ended 2020 with a surplus in all 3 funds. The general fund had just over $700 of a surplus, not a huge surplus, but a surplus nonetheless. So that's what I have to say about 2020. Moving on to 2021. We received approximately 63% of our budgeted revenue for the year. This is expected as revenue is front-loaded. Property tax makes up about 46% of our annual revenue, and we count that immediately January 1. because if we don't receive it from property owners, we receive it from the county. So we count that revenue right away. Other major revenues like state sales tax and, like sales tax and state aid come later in the year. I think we've only received one sales tax payment so far. We'll receive another one next month. I also wanted to point out that if you're looking at the line items specifically, just keep in mind that some of the revenue that we received in January and February were actually counted toward 2020. If it was something that was for a service that we did in 2020, but we received the funds in January or February, we can count that back as 2020 revenue. So an example of this would be the ambulance revenue. In January, you're not receiving revenue from calls made in January. You're receiving revenue from November and December calls. So you want to count that in the proper period. As far as expenses go, we're at about 41% of our budgeted appropriations. Obviously, summer activities haven't started yet, so pool costs are minimum, and so is summer staffing. There's also a few positions at the city that either haven't been filled yet or were recently filled. So keep that in mind if you're looking at the expenses. And we're also not quite halfway through the year. So salary expenses won't be at 50% quite yet either. That's a good portion of our budget. And retirement is also an expense that comes at the end of the year. Moving on to the water fund. We've received approximately 32% of our budgeted revenue to date. We have yet to receive any income from the arsenal, although it was due a few weeks ago. They seem to have been going back to their old practice of paying late, which irritates me, but here we are. Gilderland and Green Island will be built in July, and on the appropriation side, we're about 27% of our budgeted appropriation. And a big expense that hasn't hit us yet is school tax for our property in Gilderland. It's a huge item every year, and that doesn't come until September. So that's why our expenses are so low right now. In addition to that, we have some contracts with Honeywell that are later in the year expenses, I think maybe August, September, October, in that area. As well as expenses like health insurance and retirement that I usually split at the end of the year once all of the costs have come in between the three main operating funds. Moving on to the sewer fund. We've received approximately 44% of our budgeted revenue. The Arsenal and Colony will be billed in July for the sewer. We spent approximately 40% of our budgeted appropriation. There's a lot of expenses that are backloaded, again, the health insurance, the retirement, that will be appropriated at the end of the year. All of this being said, I want to thank the administration and the council for being patient with me as I'm trying to keep up with everything. It's kind of been a one-woman show for the past year and a half. Jimmy's been a great addition to the department so far, and I want to thank Stacy, Leslie, and Anna DeLab for stepping up. Truly everyone, Janice, Chris, March, Joe, Dave, everybody has offered to do stuff for me at some point, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any questions for Amanda?
I don't have a question for Amanda, I have a general question. Do we have any idea where we are with that lawsuit with Gilderland and the reservoir and the reassess?
We were just talking about that today.
So-
Right.
We've had some discussions. I don't think it would be a great idea to have a conversation in the public about it.
Okay,
But there have been some discussions.
I'll take a $700 surplus over last year any day.
I
That was a
was
awful
pretty proud
year.
of that and the work that we all did to get there.
Yeah, I'd like to give you my personal checkbook, have you work on that.
Well,
Surplus,
probably
any surplus would be,
you probably won't
would
like
be a
me
pleasure.
afterwards, but you know, that's the way it works. Okay,
Great job.
thank you. All right, before we go into the public comment period, there's a few things that I jotted down that I want the council to know, and just for the record too. Some of them are little, some of them are just, service oriented to the, to the residents, but you do know the splash pools are now operational, started them, waiting for anybody, normally. And I have volunteers and 3 volunteers in almost every park taking care of them so that they're on whenever they need to be. So that's the Dell on 19th Street, 2nd Avenue is in the process now of being wrapped up a little bit. I was told today, Joe, that Ramones is going to be doing the polishing. They're going to take it, they arranged everything with Gallo. He's excited about it. It's like, I'm going to do this. So he's really going to look at that to get that done.
The structure itself looks great.
The structure,
The-
it
the-
really
the
does.
roof
Yeah,
over it,
it
so
really looks
that
good.
was
Well,
really-
Jerry, there is a roof over the top of that, right? And if anybody's asking about the shingles, there will be shingles on that too. So give it time.
Rub it in there.
Yeah, but okay. Hudson Shores is still proceeding to be a project that, been working on. Of course, you saw the swings being completed, but I think it's those little things that are starting to move that momentum and people getting excited about it. We did pretty much cut back or eliminate the farmers craft market. That was just not producing any momentum. So that kind of moved off. It was a shot. They wanted to try it and it worked. The garage sale and the car show were huge successes, and I think we should kind of capitalize on those kind of types of events. You notice, I don't know if you noticed or not, but the pool fence is being painted by that Eagle Scout. It was painted 90% or so last night, and they're going to finish that, most of it up tomorrow. So that was a nice project. It looks great. I still have spots on me here and there, I'm sure. We also had a meeting and we talked about the Arsenal City race. We are going to have the race. We are going to look to do that. We're going to be looking at September 19th. September 19th. Going to start putting together a committee. Anybody wants to volunteer to be on that committee, we're looking to make that up. Kind of like one of those events that says about time. We're going to be doing something to see if we can have. Pool passes are available. We've been doing nightly and weekdays and weekend. So people are coming in to get their passes. I got the lady there tonight was Jessica who volunteered to take the pool passes. So
Are there a lot of people coming in? Do you know?
yes, I don't know how many we have, but we're probably over 300 people.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so we got
Green Island was part of that too, right?
What's that?
Was Green Island?
And Green Island, we included Green Island as consider them as residents. So, they just have to pay the resident fee for that pool pass. And
Sean Ward can swim for free now.
Sean Ward can swim for $5. Just like I
Thank
did.
you.
Just like I did.
There's feedback to the
Just like I did. And let me see, the other thing that we had, Joe, I don't know if you want to talk about it, but we've had another long meeting with FERC people. That we're seemingly closer than we said this before, that we've been closer. So I think we presented a good firm proposal to them, which they pretty much accepted. A couple of little modifications to it here and there, but we're going to be making those modifications and set it up for a final to them. So that would be the settlement agreement before going to the feds. Correct. So we did well at the last meeting. That hopefully, if successful, will be a 4-year license. Right. So we think we moved it. We had little struggles, but we made it through. We made them an offer I don't think they would want to refuse.
I've been on the receiving end of some of your proposals.
So we made those offers.
Good.
Okay.
That's pretty encouraging. That sounds good.
Yeah. Considered.
We're trying to look at, also an event for Veterans Day as well, so something that we weren't able to have a Memorial Day parade, but we might try to do something, smaller scale, but something for Veterans Day, actually in November, but something to make it so that again, we're back, we're gonna go back swinging again. So we do have some activities planned, for the city, and we're working on that.
Very good.
Anything else, Joe, I guess? I mean, there's
No
probably
music.
50 other things.
Really for like July 31st?
Yeah, when is that? Is that gonna be a real,
5 to 9 this year.
5 to 9 for the, what is it?
But it's not virtual, it's gonna be a physical.
It is a physical event at the high school,
What day is it?
July 31st.
All right, good. Because I get so many of the things that I just never know what we're doing, when.
We were virtual last year, so.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, now we'll move into the public comment period, and,
No music in the park this year?
no, well, we did not go for any, we did not do any music in the parks.
Okay.
You didn't play an instrument?
No, I don't put this in, I like the music.
Full control.
He's gonna sing for 2 minutes or less.
Okay, we'll open up the public comment period, please.
At this time, the mayor and the council have opened the public comment period. You'll have 2 minutes with which to address the council on any items you wish. We only ask that you state your name and address for the record.
Okay.
Paul Human, 1512th Avenue, Watervliet, New York. I have 2 issues. Number 1, the 2 entrances to the city. Coming east on 19th Street from the Watervliet sign, going east, there's a stretch of land there where the grass is 2 feet higher or higher. I don't know whether it's city property or school property. I presume it's school property because I think it's part of the House of Swiss property, which is school bought. So if someone could look into that, have it addressed, this will look very well coming down the hill into the city. The second grass issue would be on Broadway and 25th Street, 3 corners. That was talked about before, whether it was housing property, city property, what, regardless whose property it is, it should be addressed. Someone look into that and see if these things could be rectified. Okay. And number 2, paving, Broadway. Is everyone satisfied with the paving job?
We haven't done our final walkthrough yet, Mr. Eubank. I know there's a couple of catch basins and sanitary covers that I'm not happy with. So we'll be looking at those.
Mr. Sabina, I think there's more than a couple.
Yes.
And also, I think there should be some concern about ponding.
Mayor, I sent that picture around to you on that heavy rainstorm. We already have been looking at that. I know there's 2 businesses that I'm concerned about. Homes is one of them, Papa's is another. But I did go back after that storm event, and probably within 20, 25 minutes or so, some of those ponds did dissipate, which I was happy with. Some were still standing. I sent pictures to the mayor, to the engineer design, and to the paving company to put them on notice. So.
Look, I'm not here to criticize.
No.
You're paying these guys big money. They should do the job right.
Correct.
You're paying an engineer. Now, if these people work for me, they would be fired. Do the job right. You have an engineer on site.
Well, I wish you said that 5 years ago when a lot of that stuff was going on too, because I'm dealing with stuff from past
Certainly,
experience as well. So I understand, I'll take it, I'll take the criticism moving forward, but there's a lot of stuff we're dealing with from the past as well.
Wholeheartedly agree. It's very true. And you have to rectify and put up.
That's correct.
That's why you have to have your man on top of things, not the engineer. You know what I'm saying? The engineer, well, it's all right.
What man would you be referring to?
Pardon me?
What man would you be, our man?
Well, I'm sure you have a man that is knowledgeable about construction, and whatnot, could be on site to oversee.
That's what we have the engineer for.
Yes, but he's not the man to do the job for you, even though you think he's the man to do the job. And you're paying him well to do the job, but he's not gonna do the job if you have your man.
Well, who's our man?
Whoever you designate, whoever has knowledge to be on site to make sure it's done. For an example, I'm no genius, I'm more or less a nitwit, 2-year college dropout. Now, you're talking about manholes and whatnot. You know, you don't have to be a genius to bring a 2x4 and lay on top of the manhole to make sure that the blacktop goes up to the top of it. It's not rocket science. You know what I'm saying? It's a typical thing. Now, you get down there right now, there's, like Mr. Lasabita said, there's one or two, there's more than 1, 2, 4, 5 of those manholes. Blacktop is low. There's no need for that. I'm getting carried away. I'm sorry. Thank you for looking into it. I appreciate that as a citizen. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Yes, sir.
Asking you Ron Whitehead, 1921 8th Avenue, Watervliet. A week ago, 18-wheeler or whatever, knocked down the one-way and the weight limitation sign at the corner of 8th Avenue and 19th Street. Because they can't make that turn, so they knocked the sign down. Luckily, they didn't take out a car. Sign was put back up, nice new one-way sign, but the weight sign hasn't been replaced. So, is that on order?
Is that, you said 8th Avenue?
8th Avenue and 19th. Nice brand new one-way sign, so.
Wait, it was at 8th Avenue or?
8th Avenue and 19th, right across from the ice cream.
Okay.
GPS tells them to go down there.
Yeah.
So, try to make the curve, not really. We talked about moving the bell from its current location to the new thing on 19th Street and 2nd Avenue. Is there going to be some protection for the sign, for the bell? The bell wasn't even there for a week and it was vandalized, right? Somebody scratched their initial thing. So, no parking signs on the bike path, please. 21st Street to 23rd Street. Cars are there all the time. I encountered a young man the other day and he said, there's no sign saying no parking. It's very difficult to distinguish between the road and parking because there's nothing there. There's no painted thing. It'd be nice if there was a curbing, but there isn't. 2 years ago, the council passed the ordinance that you couldn't park boats, trucks, trailers, commercial vehicles, RVs, and all that on the public streets. For some reason, that statute is not being enforced. Right now, on the corner of 9th Avenue and 23rd Street is a 40-foot trailer. Talk about
9th and 23rd?
9th Avenue and
On
23rd
23rd or on
at
9th
the
Avenue?
corner, 9th Avenue and 23rd. It's on 9th Avenue, facing south. So if you're coming down 23rd Street,
Take a right.
you can't. That's
It's on your, it's on your,
It's on your left.
it's on your left. Okay.
Boat dock, Hudson Shore Park, is it gonna be reinstalled?
Where the kayaks used to be?
Yeah.
Well, we didn't do it this year because of, we used to split the cost with RPI, and RPI was still closed down. So we contacted, I talked to the director of the RPI crew team back in March, and there was no indication that they were gonna do it this year. So it'll be next year.
So the boathouse isn't being rented by our,
They're being rented, but it's not being used, because they're all closed down.
so the dock is not gonna be.
Not this year, no.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, thank you for 23rd Street.
I'll let you know what the final pricing is.
I figured it didn't get done because they'd already taken their equipment away.
No, I guess what happened is when we all met there and talked about it, somehow the parameters and what we were looking to do got misunderstood over there, so we got back out and looked at the site and everything was pulled at that time.
Yeah.
But they have every intention to go back and do it.
All right, thank you.
All right, well, seeing we had 2 out of 2, nobody else waiting, so I can assume that close the public hearing. Close. Okay, public hearing be closed, and if there's nothing further to come before the council, I'll ask her motion to adjourn. Before we do that, the next meeting will be going to July and August will be 1 meeting. July meeting will be 15th, July 15th, unless we get some other reason to meet, we'll notify. And the August meeting, have we decided on a date yet for the August meeting, or is that?
Yeah, you know what, I don't have it on me, let's see if I can find it real quick. I did. I believe it's the 19th. I'm sorry, the 12th, it's the 12th. Right, because it's
August 12th?
Yeah, I believe it is, it's the 12th.
Is that a regular night for me?
Regular night, yeah, one in that month.
So they're both the second, or the first, so both third week of July, or July 13th, the 12th is the second, or the third Thursday. Okay, good.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
And I'll second it.
Clerk call the roll.
Councilwoman Diamond,
In favor?
Councilman Torricella,
In favor.
Mayor Patricelli.
In favor. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Oh, really? This is. They built it.
Oh, you're perfect, thank you. You're perfect, I like that. Yeah, that's, got some fun.
It's actually.